Okay, welcome guys. This is Papa Fanzo once again, and this time, guys, I want us to look at the static fields and static members. We will look at static members and see the role that they can play in Python. Now, very most important, we need to state that static functions and properties are declared in the class body but do not need created instances for their usage. So whenever you have a static function, a static property, a static member, these members are defined inside of a class, and in order to use them, you don't have to have a class instance. You can have access to them using the class name. Very important. And then on the other hand, static properties, they store value about the class. We dealt with this, and the value is a specific for that class where it is defined. I think in the previous tutorials we dealt very much with this. Now, how do we best describe this? I think we can use some coding. So I'm going to have a class which I will call a car, and I'm going to define a constructor, and this constructor that I'm going to define, it is going to accept one argument which I will just call the model value. And then what else? I just want to have a print statement that would be able to tell us that the object is created. So let's just say object created as a print out statement in there, and then let's create an instance self.model, and let's assign it to the model value that will be passed in when you instantiate your object. And then let us have a static member now. So remember, we access them via the class name. So I'm going to use the class name in order to declare this one field, and it is going to count how many cars are there. So every time there is an instance that is created, it is going to increment the number of objects by 1. So the cars count will be incremented by 1 every time there is an object instance that is created. Very, very important. And then from there, because I want to have an initial count, I'm going to use the name of the class car dot cars count, and I'm going to set it to a value of 0 there. And I want to show you something. When I hover over here, you see it points to the same thing, but there's a vast difference in here. This one is not incremented, the value remains as a 0. So this one, it's not defined inside of your constructor in here. Very, very important. It is outside your constructor. So these two car.cars count do not do the very same thing. This one, when an object is created, it just increments the value of cars count by 1, whereas this one will tell us the initial before the object instance was created. It will tell us a specific value, but I want you to see how I'm going to use this. This is very, very brilliant. So what I'm going to do in here, I'm just going to have a print, and I'm just going to say, okay, print for me the initial cars count in there, and I'm going to say car dot cars count. And I want you to see something. When I hover over here, it will take this value, and this is the value that will be displayed for us there. Very, very important, because it has the same indentation as the print. Something worthy of noting. Right, and then let me just try to create some object instances. So I'm going to say car object 1 equals a car, but I know I need to pass in one argument of type string there, which I will call, let's say the model it's a Toyota Corolla, and I'm going to copy this and paste it 3 times. So I will have the second object and I will have a third object, and this one I'm not going to make so much of a modification, and this one I'm going to say test, and this one let's just say it's a Corsa. Very good. And then I'm going to have a printout. So remember this one, it will tell me the initials car count, how many objects you have created. You have none, the value has to be 0. You have created 3, and then it will tell you the value there. Copy this and paste. Very good. And I'm not making any changes in here. I'm taking it exactly the way it is from there and putting it in here, and here I'm just going to modify and say final cars count, and then I'm going to have this print out. So what is it that I'm doing in here? I'm not printing out anywhere in my print. I'm not printing out the model there. I'm just printing out the initial cars count using this static cars count, and then here the value is 0. So this is not going to be incremented. Why? Because it is not inside your constructor. The indentation, it's not the same. So this one will be incremented because it is inside of your constructor, and this one will not, because this one gets incremented. Why? Because every time you create an object, look what you are saying there, car equals this. So in other words, for every time you create a cars.count, what it will do, it will add in here. So for the very first object it will be 1, the second object it will be 2, the third object will be 3 there. So let us just try to run this and see whether things will happen the way in which we want. Now let me come here. Initial cars count, I have not yet created any object instances, so the value is 0. Do you see this? Now this, let me show you what this is. This is cars count equals car dot cars count plus 1. This is what it means. And very, very important, this, let me just run this and show you that this is exactly the same. There it is. So what is happening in here, every time you create an object instance, I am incrementing a counter by 1. So what is this? This is an instance. If we hover over here, this is just it is a member. So this member, it's a static member. Why? Because you are accessing this member via the class name, not via the object. Very, very important that we see this. And what is going to happen in here? When I create an object instance, just as we have in here, car obj1, what it will do, it will do what? It will increment by 1. So initially, when there is nothing in there, the value is 0. When you have not yet created any instances, for the very first instance, the value will be 1. For the second instance, the value will be 2, and so on. So the plus 1 here does not necessarily mean that even though you have not yet created a car instance, it has a value of 1. No, you are saying increment this by an incrementation value of 1. Very, very important that we see this. So because we have not yet created any object instance, the value of cars count will be 0. The value there is 0. You create the first instance, the value is 1, the value is 2, and the value is 3. And then when you run this is exactly what you have. So how many objects have we created? 1, 2, 3. And what is the final cars count? The value is 3. So this is how you can have a static member that satisfies a certain condition of your interest. In this case, we are keeping track of the number of objects that are created. You can have a static member that does whatever that you want. You can have events in here. Every time an object is created, you will thrust an event to notify whoever who has subscribed, and then you can do many things in here which we will not yet deal with, but there will be time, of course, when we deal with events in Python and everything that goes along with that. We will look into machine learning principles and many things. So it is very important that we understand this. What is this? It is a member. It is an instance. It is an instance that I can access via the class name. As you can see there, I'm saying car.cars count. I am creating an instance, and every time you create an object of type car, it will increment the value of cars count by 1. So this is something that I wanted to share with you guys. I hope that you understand what I was trying to fulfill in here. Please do not forget to share, like, and subscribe to the lectures of Papa Fanzo, and I will see you in the next tutorial.